Hey everyone, my name is Ismail Lara and I'd like to share a quick update of the El Paso 727 restoration project. So here's a little background for you. My brother and I, we found an abandoned 727 at an auction site and we decided to purchase it in order to repurpose it. You know, here you can see my son and I standing in front of what used to be a fully operational Boeing 727 in its prime. But now it's been abandoned for about 20 years in the El Paso International Airport, and that's where we came in. You know, we were able to buy this historic beauty for only $10,000 after taxes and fees. And even though that sounds like a great steal and a bargain, there's always a catch. It was way too big to move as one piece, and the cost of hiring an outside company to come in and tear it apart and transport it was astronomical, way too high for our budget. So we decided to take it apart ourselves, piece by piece, right on site, and do as much as we could with the help from our local community and contractors. So the first week, we started by tackling the interior of the plane. Step one was cleaning up all the wild animal fur and the droppings that were stuck to the carpet. Yeah, I know it's gross, but it's true. I don't even know what was in there, but definitely it was some sort of predator because there was plenty of small animal bones that we were picking up. So I'm thinking it was like a mountain lion or a coyote since we're in the desert. But definitely some owls because I found a ton of those small pellets. You know, the ones we used to dissect in science class, so there were definitely some owls in there. But you know what? We did the job, and after it was safe to work inside without the hazmat gear, after we swept and vacuumed and took everything out, we started removing that decades-old carpet, the passenger seats, and all the loose interior fixtures that were inside of the plane so that we could begin to expose the actual structure of the frame of the plane. You know, most of this stuff hadn't been touched for many, many years, and it totally looked like it hadn't because it was dusty, it was grimy, it was greasy and dirty. But surprisingly, those carpets, while we were taking them off, were still as sturdy and strong as the day that they were made. I'm telling you, they don't make things like they used to because this stuff was super solid. Okay, so the next step was getting those seats out. That was pretty straightforward, especially since, you know, there were only a few seats left. I don't even know where the rest of the seats went or what happened to them, but there were only like 2 or 3 seats left, you know. And even though there were that few, it still gave us a run for our money because they were so hard to take out. We're talking 20 something years of it not being moved or used or anything like that. So it was, I mean, it was all rusty and grimy. You know, it was as simple as just trying to like pull those seats out of the little brackets. It was so hard, guys. We had to bring in pry bars. We had to, you know, use a ton of elbow grease, and we were just pulling and pulling until we were finally able to, you know, I guess slide them off the rusty rails and take them off. So once it was done, we were on to the next task. Dismantling the interior was like really slow work. I'm talking like snail pace. And you know, it looks really simple, but every bolt, every bracket, every piece of paneling, we wanted it to come out preferably in one piece so that we could reuse it, right? But a lot of these things had like bolts, behind screws, behind panels, behind brackets. I mean, it was crazy to get back there and take them off. So we were as careful as we could to salvage everything reusable or anything reusable, but we did break a few pieces. You know, I'm not gonna lie, there's some pieces that just broke right off, especially when you're, you know, yanking at them and after being not used for so many years. But I'm really glad we were able to save the most part of it. The majority of it was salvaged, so that's good. You know, and by the end of the week, the cabin panels were mostly all removed and most of the heavy paneling was cleared out. You know, we just had this like hollow looking insulated tube, and that's exactly what we wanted because we're trying to make it as light as possible for when we actually transport it. You know, exposing the interior finally let us see the structural access points so that we can start planning our cuts for when it's time to cut and transport and do all that fun stuff. So we're super excited about that. Budget-wise, we were in great shape. I mean, we only spent about 2% of our total teardown budget this week, which is fantastic. It was just on tools, trash bags, and of course, the highly priced personal protective equipment because of all that gunk we had to take out of there. But that left us at 98% of our total dismantling budget, so we're in great shape as far as that goes. Next week, we're gonna take on the aircraft's inner walls, the lavatories, which are the restrooms or latrines, and of course, that old galley kitchen, which is gonna be one of my favorite things to do, you know? And that's where the complexity really comes in because remember, there's old plumbing, there's old insulation, there's a bunch of vintage wiring, and they're all in the mix, so please stay tuned. You know, I'm not looking forward to dismantling those 60-year-old toilets, but we're gonna get it done, so please join us. Remember, it's just the beginning. We got 1 week down, many more to go. If you're enjoying this, please hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with your friends, the community, your family. Please follow along as we continue to break down this Boeing 727 one review at a time. We'll see you guys next time.